I'm Suzanne Sabilla. I'm the owner of Sabilla & Associates, which is the premier leadership and employee development company. Overcome obstacles, reframe your reality, love life, and have growth goals. Change and shift your energy. Pivot. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to have you watching our show. I'm Suzanne Sabilla, your host of Pivot Now, where we bring on interesting, exciting, and dynamic guests who will share with us their tips, tricks, and life and business hacks to help you pivot in your life. I am so excited to bring this guest on our show. Oh my gosh, she's absolutely amazing. Let me tell you her story. So, she was in the retail industry for over 26 years. She started to feel really burnt out and was struggling through it all. Her relationships started to go downhill. She was gaining weight, and she had an aha moment with, this is not how to live my life. She ended up pivoting in her life, and now she's a well-known author, success coach, and she lost over 65 pounds. Absolutely amazing. Welcome to our show, Lisa Hammett. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
We love it. Yes, let's go, Lisa. Woo!
I'm so excited to be here, Suzanne. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so exciting to have you here on our show. Oh my gosh, your story is so amazing. I mean, to work in the retail industry, that's a difficult industry to be in for over 26 years. And then to lose all that weight, my gosh, over 65 pounds. Tell us how you did that. How did you go about doing that?
Well, I hit a wall. I'm just going to be honest here. For anybody who is watching and they are so stressed out that they feel physically ill, they don't sleep well, their healthy habits have gone out the window. I hope this is relatable to you and you can recognize that it's time to seek some help, because I had gotten to a place where I did feel like I had slammed into a wall and I had no more mental bandwidth to continue in my existing situation. I mean, I was just so stressed out. On Sunday nights before work, I was sitting there physically sick, thinking about everything that I was going to walk into the next morning. And yes, I had no sleep and I was eating poorly. I was living on caffeine and sugary beverages and foods and processed foods, whatever you could grab quickly and easily, which led to the 65-pound weight gain. And, you know, it got to a point where my husband basically said, you know, I don't care what you do, but please get out of this job.
Wow.
I don't even think he said please, which I don't blame him. It was like, you need to get out of this job because I love you, but I don't like being around you. And this job is killing you. And he was absolutely right. So I exited a long-term career and really without a strategy of how to replace a high income, which was challenging. But for my mental well-being, it was the best thing that I could have done. So when I left, I joined Weight Watchers and that's how I lost the 65 pounds. And then I decided to be a coach for them. And it was an amazing journey. The members just inspired me and I really started to love the coaching aspect. So that kind of led me into coaching. And then fast forward, it's the pandemic and people are coming to me because they're so stressed and they're like, oh my gosh, can you help me? And at that point, I'm like, you know what? I really need to get trained properly in life coaching because weight gain and poor health is just a byproduct of something else. So that's what I did. And I went through an intensive global training program and added on the life coaching. And then last year I started working with positive intelligence and am
Which
wrapping
is
up
a
my
great program.
certification.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes. I know
I'm in
you
that
know it
program as
well.
well, positive intelligence, which is absolutely
Yes.
amazing as well. So yeah, that's incredible that you went from that like burnout to, gaining
Yeah.
all that weight to actually losing the weight and shifting and pivoting your life. Absolutely amazing. So what kinds of tips or techniques would you give us to
So
our life?
yeah, that's a great question. The first thing that needs to happen is if you can honestly say to yourself that if I do nothing and my life is going to just get progressively worse in the next month,
Mm,
6 months, year, and the alternative could be really dire, you have to take action. And, it might be leaving a difficult career or toxic work environment. People have left marriages. Again, I'm not a
mhm,
proponent of
mhm.
saying, oh, just, throw in the towel, but, be thoughtful about it, but really assess, is this leading me to what I want in life? And making that conscious decision. And then it's, going on that self development journey and finding someone that you can talk to. If it's a
Mhm.
mentor, if it's a coach, gosh, in some cases, it might even be a therapist. But, who can you talk to who is an objective third party? And I'm not saying you have to go and spend a ton of money necessarily, but
Mhm.
talk to somebody. Talk to somebody because they can add a different perspective than what you're seeing right now. And then it's time to dream. You got to really think about, okay,
Mhm.
so if I do leave this situation, what then am I going to do? Because that can be really daunting for people. So I would say that's your first thing. And then there's a lot of other things that you can do later on.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely great advice. Is to really assess where you are at this moment in time, right? Because a lot of times, what I find with a lot of my clients is they
Mm-hmm.
get to this point where they're just like maybe they're content, but they're just kind of like living a ho hum life, right? It's
Yes.
like go to work, wake up, go to work, get the kids to school, and it's just like come home, do the same thing over again, right? And there's just like
Mm-hmm.
that kind of, routine, right?
Yes.
And then they don't realize it, but like years go by and they're like, gosh, what kind of life have I been living? I
Mm-hmm.
want more, right? And so to really
Yes.
see that, like, what is the more that you want and where's the gap and where do you want to go to get there, right? And what is your reason
Absolutely.
why? I think that's the other important part. Is
Oh, it's
like
huge.
what drives you? Like what is your why? Why do you want more? Right? Why do
I
you want a
totally
different
agree.
life? Yeah. So it
So
sounds like
true.
you really assessed your own situation, your own life, and really took some action towards that.
I
Yeah.
did. And I
Yeah.
use a similar process with clients too. It's where you
Uh-huh.
think about what are your core values. And this can be
Mm.
hard. People have to think on this for a little bit
Yeah.
because, I share it's really what is most important to you in your life. And when you're kind of complacent and in a situation like you described where you're just going through the motions, or
Hmm.
if you're in a highly toxic, stressful industry or profession or marriage, whatever, it's hard to see past that. So
Yeah.
really
Yes.
taking the time, what are your core values? What is most important to you in life? Then what are you most passionate about? Because that's
Mm.
very important. And then what are your key strengths? And these could be like God-given talents, or they could be just skills that you have developed along the way, in your work and just in life in general. It could be even something like, are you highly organized? Are you a good
Mm.
listener?
Uh-huh.
But it could also be, a trade or a particular skill that you have learned. And then once you really have solid answers for each of those, and you kind
Hmm.
of, I like to put them out like on a sheet of paper, 3 different columns, values, passion, strengths, then you start to see similarities in each of the columns. And those similarities, that's the area that you need to be swimming in. So that's kind
I
of your
love
starting
that.
point.
I love that, Lisa. I like that. Values, passions, and strengths.
Mhm.
Wow, that's a great tip. I love that. So you have the three columns and you write out
Yes.
values, passions, and strengths. So I want to know more about values. But before we talk on this, we're going to a commercial break.
Hi, I'm Kelly Melissa Reinhart, host of Make Mental Health Matter. Join me on Mondays at 11 a.m. and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on the Achieve TV network right here on E360 TV.
We're back. And watch Kelly every Monday, Motivational Mondays. It's a great show here on E360 TV. We're back with Lisa Hammett, and she's been talking about values and how important that is. So tell us a little bit more, is how do you find those values? Like, what are values?
So values are those things in your life that are most important to you. And it could be some of the most common are financial, family, and faith. Those are like at the top of the list, but they can also be certain qualities like honesty, integrity, vulnerability. It could also be tenacity, so certain character traits. It could be art. If you're an artist, that could be a big thing. It could be analytics. If you are highly left brain dominant, having capable analytical skills could be very important. So a good place to start, because I know this can be kind of overwhelming to people. I even Googled it, but in my book, From Burnout to Best Life, I actually pulled some of the top values out there that were on the internet, and I incorporated them in my book. But if you type in values, oh my gosh, top values, you're going to get pages and pages of information. And what you're going to find, what can be kind of intimidating is, especially if you try to narrow it down to the top three, which is what I really say. You really need to have a top three, and really the top one should incorporate the other two. And sometimes that's hard to think about, but if, let's say, financial is important, okay? So financial could be success, it could be debt-free, it could be money management. There's all different kinds of things. So your value can incorporate all those smaller ones. And family, family is a huge one for many people. So if honesty, vulnerability, communication, all of those things are really important, those can all go under the family umbrella. So, instead of trying to say, oh my gosh, I don't know how I can narrow 20 different, values, it's like, well, think about the things that are most important to you, and those will encompass a lot of those smaller ones. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I think, again, a very important thing to do, right? Because a lot of times as I said earlier, we go through our life not even thinking about these things, right? There's a lot of times, we don't even go through school and learn about these things, right? We learn about science and health and math and all these subjects, but no one teaches us life skills and what are your core values and how do you find alignment with your core values to the kind of work that you're doing, what your occupation is, or if you're going to start a business. No one talks about these things, right? It's like you have to develop it yourself or find groups or network with other people to find that. So I'm glad that we're talking about values as being so important, because I think it is. It is very important to find that and to find that alignment. So then once you find that, then where do you go from there? So I find, let's say, my top values of financial freedom and being in a family that's caring and loving and kind. And what if I don't have that at this point? So how do I go from, let's say if I'm at that point where I don't have those things, but I'm wanting those things in my life, how do I go from that to where I want to go?
That's a great question. So again, it ties into, so you have your values, define your passions, what are you most passionate about, and what are your strengths? And then you create that vision statement. And when you have that vision statement that incorporates all of that, then you really start to visualize what your future is going to look like. Now, this is where people sometimes get hung up, is they're like, well, I'm here and I want to get clear over here. I don't know how that's possible. You don't need to learn all that right now. That you don't have to have the actual roadmap, completely finalized at this point. All you need to know is that, okay, this is my vision for the future, and you need to completely envision it and tie it to an emotion. Because if you don't tie it to emotions, there's no investment. It's just like a picture on the wall. But when you see a picture of your family on vacation, laughing and having fun in a location that obviously might require some financial stability in order to be there, and you're seeing that, and you can feel the air and you can smell the salts, in the air, and you're just relaxed and carefree and you're happy and you're not overly stressed, that then starts to create that life. Because once you start thinking about these things, if you think about them repeatedly, your actions start to follow suit. That's just human behavior. So what you think about becomes your belief system, which drives your behavior. And if you firmly believe that this life is possible, then your behavior is starting to move in that direction, and you'll find a way to make that happen. It's when
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. This is gold. I love this. This is so great, Lisa. Yeah, I love that. It's so true though, right? I mean, to have that vision of what it is you want in your life and to be very clear about it. I mean, that's the clarity, because I think what I find with a lot of clients is they'll say, well, I don't know, or they go to the how, like, how do I go about getting there? They focus so much on the how when they don't even have their vision or have the clarity of what it is they want in their life. Exactly. So I love that you said that, is you have to have the clarity first of what it is you want in your life, the vision of what you want, and to really feel it emotionally. Like you just painted this wonderful picture. I mean, I was feeling it. I was like, oh gosh, this is great.
I need to go on vacation.
I need to go on vacation. Like, this is cool. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I do an exercise with my clients, whereas what is your fantastic, most amazing day? Like, vision that, right?
Nice.
And it's during the week, like your ideal day. What does your ideal day look like, feel like, and envision that, right? And that can be what becomes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that you talked about that in terms of vision is so important. And then melding all of that with regards to your values, your passion, your strengths.
Yes.
So again, how do you go about, so now you find their vision. Now you've got that clear vision in mind, and you say, okay, this is what I want in my life. I want that financial freedom. And I want to have that where I have that joy in my family, and that's a part of it. So how do I go about doing that? Now I've got that vision. I have my passion. What's next?
So kind of aligned with that is the why that you had mentioned earlier. So, you've got your vision, but then why do you want to do that? Because it's going to be fun. No, that's not good enough. You have to keep asking yourself why, until you get to the root cause. It's like, because I want to be able to provide for my family in a way that I never had, where they can feel secure and happy and healthy, and we can live just a vibrant life. Whatever that why is, because that will continue to motivate and encourage you when challenges arise, because they will. And life's going to happen. So once you have your vision statement and you have your why, then it's time, okay, let's talk about some big goals here, and get your long-term goals. It could be 6, 12 months out, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. You can go out as far as you want, but get those big goals. And again, you don't have to know every single step at this point of how you're going to get there, but what do you want to accomplish? Because if you don't put it out there, then it's not going to happen. Because remember, what you think about repeatedly is how your behavior then follows suit. So if you're putting it out there that I'm going to be debt free in a year, and you keep saying that, then your actions are going to be, well, okay, I don't really need that after all. Or maybe I'm not going to eat out tonight. I'm going to dine in. And, oh, here's how I can maybe shave off some expenses and save some money or pay down my debt. So again, your actions are following suit, and then you evaluate it. I'm not saying that goals have to always be set in stone. Things happen, life happens, certainly. But, you have to be flexible to a point. But that's not an excuse to give up either. So, do those goals and then break those down. I think absolutely you have to break them down into monthly goals, or if it's a 10-year goal, then okay. So an annual goal, and then maybe a 6-month goal, and then break down either in quarters or in months. And then you break those down into weekly goals, and you get really focused, and it's really about forming those habits. And we spend a lot of time on habit formation, and these are the action items or the action steps that will help you get to a goal. So like, for example, if health is one of your values, and okay, so maybe a monthly goal is to lose 5 pounds. All right, let's make it super realistic. So then each week, how do you do that? Well, maybe I'm meal prepping and I'm working out 3 days a week, for 30 minutes. And so these action steps are the steps that then help you achieve that goal.
Wow. Woo! Love it, love it, love it, Lisa. That is great. I want to know more about the habit forming. And okay. After our break, we're going to take another commercial break, and we'll find out more about habits.
Hi, this is Ken D. Foster, the host of the Voices of Courage show. Join us live on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific, where we help you see the unseeable, know the unknowable, and do the impossible on E360 TV.
We're back. Watch Ken every Wednesday, Voices of Courage show. It's an absolutely amazing show every Wednesday here on E360 TV. Well, welcome back, everyone. We're back with Lisa Hammett, and she's our success coach, and she's telling us how to be successful in our life and how to go from burnout to your best life ever. We're talking about habits, so I want to know more about how to develop those healthy habits. So tell us a little bit more about that. You talked about taking actions, having goals, and developing that. Tell us more.
Okay, so I love talking about habits, and I'm going to give a plug. If you want a fantastic book to read or an audio book, if you haven't picked up Atomic Habits by James Clear, it is my all-time favorite. I guess if you want to call, I don't like to say self-help, but improvement, whatever book. And it is phenomenal. And I teach a lot of his principles in the book. So habit formation, it's really, it's a 3-step process. So you have to think about, your behavior that you want to do. So maybe I'm going to do a really simplistic behavior here, and that's to drink more water. Okay, because we all know that for health and wellness, hydration is super important. So to drink more water, and being as specific as possible is really important. So the first step in the habit formation process is the cue, which is, think of it as like a trigger or reminder for you to do the behavior. And although it may be a simple behavior that we want to adopt, it's not always easy because it's not something we do consistently. So we have to start very, very small, almost like to say ridiculously small. But the thing is you want it to be so realistic that you achieve it, and then you can build and expand upon it and get traction. Because if you set an action item for yourself and you don't achieve it, how does that make you feel?
Not too good.
No, and you want to give up. So you want to build that self-efficacy and just feel like, okay, I can do this, feel empowered. So the cue, first step, the cue, what is it? And then the second part is the actual habit that you want to form, which in this case is water You want to drink more water, stay hydrated. And then the third is the reward, because you have to have some kind of reward or you're not going to want to continue the behavior. Now, a great way to form habits is to attach the activity that you want to develop to something that you're already doing. So for an example, let's say one of the first things you do when you get up in the morning is you head into the kitchen to get your coffee. Yes, that's me. So let's say you have your coffee pot there. So a reminder to drink the water would be, I'm going to put a water bottle next to the coffee maker so that I know when I go in there to get my coffee, I see this water bottle and it's going to prompt me to drink my water. So the reason why I want to drink my water is because the reward is going to be that cup of coffee that I really want. So,
okay, that's great.
So you've got your reward and you just keep doing that. So oftentimes, like when we form habits, we attach it to things where we don't get that instant gratification. And you really need to have something that's going to provide you instant gratification when you're forming habits. Like, for example, activity. You know, people want to be more active. One of the reasons that they say they want to be active is to improve their health and to lose weight. Well, that's fantastic. But as we all know, you don't lose weight just immediately. And when you're being active, it can take weeks to really start to see weight loss. Now, you might be toning up, you might be having more energy, but you're not getting that right away. So when you're telling yourself that your reward is losing weight, you can lose interest pretty quickly if that weight doesn't come off as quickly as you want it to. And it most often doesn't, because that's reality. So in situations like that, it's okay. So I'm going to attach it to how I want to feel. You know, I've been feeling really tired and sluggish. So my reward is going to feel, I'm going to be so much more energized. It's actually going to relieve my stress and improve my mental clarity. So that's a great reward. And when you focus on that, then you want to repeat the behavior, because it's not something that's going to take you months and months to reach a weight loss goal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I love it. I mean, it's really great about the whole reinforcement of that, right? Because it's true. I mean, we're instant gratifiers, right? We want instant. True. I mean, you know, that's why we've got all these, like, social media. It's like, it's an instant thing, right? And so that's great. This is really great advice. I love this. I love this conversation.
I do too. It's been fun.
and so tell me a little bit more. Let's say if you're wanting to save money, tell us about that, because I find that with a lot of clients. They're like, I want to save more money, or I want to be financially free, you know, whatever that means to them, right? So how do you go about instituting this as a habit?
So I think the best way to start is, okay, so you have your big goal, but then to break it down into like a smaller amount. And maybe it's, okay, I'm going to start with $100, just say $100. And so I'm going to start small. And what I'm going to do is every paycheck, I'm going to save $25 so that in a month, I'll have $100. But the reward for doing that is when I do that at the end of, you know, the month or whatever, maybe I'll treat myself to something. And I'm not saying necessarily that it has to be something financially expensive, but it could be maybe just spending some time with a friend that you haven't in a long time. And that goes back to the weekly things too. It's every time you save that money. Okay, so how can you treat yourself as like a reward that doesn't involve money, you know, so that you want to keep doing that behavior? And maybe it's actually creating a chart or putting that in, you know, like a clear glass container so you can see the money growing, you know, because visuals are often very motivating. You know, remember when we were younger, you might have a big piggy bank or a jar, and you would put like loose change in it or pennies, and how motivating it was to see that amount grow.
Yeah,
So
I still have that. We still have a jar, we put
yeah,
all of our change in there and then we go into that, dispenser where you can, yep, yeah, exactly, right? And get the money that way. Yeah, because it all adds up. So
it
yeah, I
does.
love that. That's great. So in some ways, it sounds kind of complicated what you're talking about. I mean, forming the habits and everything. I'm wondering, is there a way to make it simpler, if you will? Because in some ways, it's like, gosh, you got you know, the goals and then how you get the habits and you take the actions. I mean, I'm wondering, is there a way to make it simple for us?
Well, I think that, each step is a process. So,
Mm-hmm.
you got to have the time again to do your vision statement and your why and then set your goals. But once you've set your goals, it's pretty easy to think of behaviors that can help you achieve those goals. So that when it
Mm.
comes down to your day in, day out activities, it's like, okay,
Uh-huh.
so what behaviors do I need to do that will help me get to those goals? And then we take into account that habit loop. And, so what's going to remind you to do the behavior? What is the behavior you want to do? And then what is your reward? And what makes it easier also is having an accountability partner.
Yes. Yes. So
Because
true.
it is really hard to motivate ourselves some
Yeah.
days. It's
Mm-hmm.
really hard. And having somebody who can be there with you and celebrate your successes, but also can lovingly, I like to say, kick you in the butt when you need
Uh-huh.
it,
Yeah.
and who can walk alongside you and just say, okay, is this behavior really helping you get to that goal? Remember why you wanted to get to this goal, why it's so important, what your core values are, what your why is. And having that person to reinforce that will then be,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I might make a different choice. So having that accountability, I think is huge. And when,
Yeah.
yeah,
Very huge.
huge.
Yeah.
And,
Mm-hmm.
have a coach like yourself,
Yeah.
that's huge. Or, in some cases it might be a pastor, or it could just be a mentor at work. It could be a family member. I find in
Yeah.
situations when
Mm-hmm.
it's in pertaining to like life goals, sometimes an objective third party is better. Family members are great and they can be loving and supportive, but they're not always objective.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it might be better to get an objective third party.
Yeah, I think that's true. Like a neutral party, like you're saying, an
Yes,
objective point of view. And I think
exactly.
it's so important to have that accountability partner
Hmm.
or a community as well. I mean, I know for
Huge.
myself in business, I have a whole network of people that are
Mhm.
hold me accountable for what I want to accomplish in business. And that's just been amazing to have these high level people, right, that are holding you accountable.
Yes.
Like, okay, you said you wanted to do the show, like, let's see it, right? You said you
Hmm.
wanted so many viewers, like, let's see it, right? What
Yep.
actions are you going to take to do that? And it's the same thing as having that accountability person, coach, if you will, to help you along the way. So I love that advice. That gets the fire in.
Yay.
Dropping gold nuggets here, Lisa. Absolutely amazing. I love this. I
Thank
love this
you.
conversation. It's just really great.
Yeah.
So, any other kinds of tips or techniques, or what is again, in this part of our show, we talk about the tips, the techniques, three tips, two techniques, and one action item to move us forward. And you talked a lot about the tips. You gave us gold in terms of the tips and techniques as well. So, what is the one action item we can take right now to move our life, to pivot our life forward?
Oh gosh. Again, I think it goes back to kind of how we started this conversation, is that you have
Mm-hmm.
to recognize that your life will not improve if you don't take some sort of action. And what does that
Mm.
action look like? In my book, From Burnout to Best Life, at the end, I have reflection questions that ask you to identify pain points in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So I would ask you, what are those pain points in your life right now? And if you do nothing, will they expand? And what will your life look like? So really, really identify what those pain points are. And then, focus on one thing to start. I mean, you can't,
Mm-hmm.
we tend to overwhelm ourselves by
So true.
saying,
Yeah.
oh, I've got to do everything at once. I have to. I've got to get my spending under control, and I need to lose a bunch of weight, and my communication with my significant other is just not going well, and I need to get more organized. And once you start dumping all these I have to, you get depressed and you just feel this deep burden on top of you. And I'm not saying that those aren't goals that you can focus on or action items, but let's start by identifying what is the biggest pain point that needs to be addressed right now, and how can that help you get to that vision that you want for your future. So start with that.
Love it. Biggest pain point right now, and how is that going to get to your vision? Like, what are you going to do right now, here and now? Take that one action and pivot your life forward.
Yes.
Love it. Absolute gold, Lisa. This is amazing. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
You talked about your book. So tell us a little bit more. Where can we find your book?
So my book is on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and other major distribution channels, Walmart, globally, actually. And it's in paperback and it's in Kindle as well. At some point, I'm going to do an audio version, but I've got a lot of other stuff going on right now. So that's probably not going to happen. But one thing that I want to offer for anybody who does pick up my book, and again, you can just go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble, it's probably the easiest right now, is if you email me or message me, then I will send you a free downloadable workbook that pairs very well with the book, and it talks a lot about that vision statement that we've talked about, and why, and your goals. So it will be a great resource for you to help propel you from that pain point to your vision.
That's great. And again, the name of your book?
From Burnout to Best Life.
Oh, love it. Love it. Woo! Burnout to Best Life. You go. Let's go. Let's go. And where else can we find you? How can we connect with you?
So probably the easiest way to remember would be to go to my website, which you see my name here. It's lisahammett.com. That's really difficult. And you'll see on my website, you'll learn more about my book. There's actually a direct link. If you want to purchase through my website, you can do that. I'm a monthly blogger as well. So you can read my blogs. You can subscribe to that. You can actually submit your own blog post and be a guest blogger on my website. I'm also a motivational speaker, and I have a speaker page that gives excerpts of conferences that I've done, speaking engagements, has my TEDx on there as well, and samples of the different types of presentations that I do. And then it also gives a good backstory on, what happened to me. We talked a little bit about it today, but, a backstory on how did I get to burnout, and, how did I move past it? So that's a good way to go. First, if you are on social media, I'm on LinkedIn. That's my my platform of choice. And I post a lot of educational content on LinkedIn. I have a pretty large following. I'm also on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram and YouTube. That's something that I'm working on is expanding my YouTube outreach as well. So
wow, so you're everywhere.
Pretty much, yeah. Oh, and I'm on Pinterest, and
That's so great. I love it. Yeah, it's so great to talk with you, Lisa, and I'm so happy and feel so honored to have you as a guest on our show. This is absolutely amazing. Love it. And you'll find more about Lisa. You can connect with Lisa after our recording. We'll have all of our links on the recording as well. So thank you so much for being on our show. I feel so honored. And thank you for watching our show. We love having you as our audience watching our show. Every Tuesday, we have our show, Pivot Now, 10 o'clock. Pacific time, 1 o'clock Eastern time. Live life abundantly. Pivot now. Change and shift your energy. Pivot